Breaking news, Britain just lost $100 billion in just 2 days, and the man responsible is pretending nothing happened. This might be the biggest diplomatic disaster since Brexit, and almost no one saw it coming. Because this time, it wasn't quiet or polite. India just walked away from Britain, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi didn't do it behind closed doors. He stood in front of the world's cameras and said something no Indian leader has ever dared to say before. India will not be lectured or manipulated by a nation that cannot honor its word. 15 words, 1 sentence. And just like that, Britain's entire post-Brexit trade dream went up in smoke. But here's the crazy part. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't bad timing. It was a setup. And the proof. It's leaking right now. So if you want to understand how global power really works behind closed doors, stay till the end, because what you're about to hear will change the way you see world politics forever. And before we dive in, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Let's rewind 3 months. Britain and India were just days away from signing the biggest trade deal since Brexit. Billions in manufacturing, technology, and pharmaceuticals, jobs, investments, and a partnership that was meant to prove Brexit wasn't a disaster. Both governments had agreed. The contracts were ready. Media teams were preparing statements. Champagne was literally waiting on ice at Downing Street. Then, at the last moment, Keir Starmer's team quietly rewrote the deal. In secret, according to leaked documents from India's trade office, British negotiators added hidden clauses, secret tariffs that would cripple Indian exports and restrictions that handed Britain total control. While India got almost nothing in return. When Modi's advisors discovered the changes, they were stunned. This wasn't negotiation. It was betrayal disguised as legal jargon. They demanded answers. But instead of a reply, something worse surfaced. A senior British official sent a private message to his team, and within hours, it landed in the hands of Indian intelligence. The message said, "Modi will never leave the table. They need us more than we need them." That one line destroyed 70 years of trust. It revealed exactly how Britain still saw India through the same old post-colonial arrogance. They thought India was desperate. They thought they could push them around. They were wrong. Within 24 hours, Modi called a press conference in New Delhi. No warning, no diplomatic filter, just a calm but cutting statement that sent shockwaves through London. India will not accept disrespect disguised as partnership. Then he walked off the stage. The room exploded in applause. Within minutes, the clip went viral across 47 countries. Starmer betrays India hit #1, trending worldwide in under 3 hours. And instead of apologizing, Starmer made the biggest mistake of his career. He dismissed it, called Modi's reaction political theater. Said it was just a miscommunication that got blown out of proportion. That response hit the diplomatic world like a bomb, and from that moment on, the damage was unstoppable. Former British ambassadors called it catastrophically stupid. Senior Labour MPs said it felt like watching a slow-motion train wreck, one they couldn't stop. And then India did something no one thought they'd ever do in modern history. They completely suspended all trade talks with Britain, not delayed, not postponed, suspended. The economic hit came almost instantly. Containers filled with British goods sat stuck at Indian ports. Investment firms began pulling billions out of London, and manufacturers in Birmingham, Manchester, and Sheffield started reporting cancelled contracts overnight. Real jobs? Gone. Just like that, all because one man's ego couldn't handle being challenged. But the money was just the surface of something much deeper. As journalists started digging into how this all went so wrong, they uncovered a financial trail, one that connected Starmer's biggest donors to powerful multinational corporations. And these corporations all had one shared objective: keep Britain tied to European trade networks and block any serious expansion into Asia, no matter the cost. And this wasn't conspiracy theory stuff. There were bank records, meeting notes, and even private dinner logs from exclusive London clubs, where top officials allegedly discussed how to quietly sabotage the India deal without drawing attention. One leaked document spelled it out bluntly: slow India's expectations while protecting ties with Brussels. In other words, this wasn't a blunder, it was a plan. And if that's true, then this isn't about incompetence anymore. It's about corruption, foreign influence, and a prime minister willing to betray a key ally for donor money. The fallout was instant, and Global Australia issued a public statement of concern. Canada followed. Even the US State Department called for calm between London and New Delhi. Meanwhile, inside Buckingham Palace, chaos. Reports from palace insiders said King Charles was furious. Not just politically, but personally, he felt humiliated. For decades, the royal family had worked to nurture relationships across the Commonwealth, and in a single week, Starmer managed to undo all of it. Inside Downing Street, panic took over. Civil servants said it was worse than Brexit night. Files started disappearing. Encrypted messages were deleted. Angry phone calls flew back and forth between London and New Delhi. But nothing could stop what was coming next. India made its final move, and it was devastating. The Indian government announced sweeping economic restrictions on all British goods, new tariffs, export bans, and even the suspension of visa programs. It was the toughest punishment India had ever handed to a Western ally. Markets crashed. The pound nosedived. British luxury brands watched their Indian customer base vanish overnight. Economists compared the moment to the Suez Crisis, the point when Britain finally realized the empire was truly over. And inside the Labour Party, rebellion exploded. Senior ministers confronted Starmer behind closed doors. There were shouting matches, threats of resignation, and endless leaks from cabinet sources describing complete chaos. Poll numbers tanked. Labour's support collapsed by 12 points in a single week. Even Starmer's closest allies went silent. Nobody wanted to defend what had become indefensible. Meanwhile, across the world, things looked very different. As Britain's credibility burned, Modi's popularity in India soared. Crowds gathered outside Parliament chanting his name. Indian media called it the defining moment of his career. The day India stood up to Western arrogance and won. The contrast couldn't be clearer. On one side, a leader who stood firm on principle. On the other, a leader who lied, got caught, and tried to cover it up. Because when you strip away the politics, this isn't about trade policy or economics. It's about trust. Britain made promises. India believed them. And at the last moment, those promises were rewritten. Not because of honest disagreement, but because powerful people decided Europe mattered more than India. That's not diplomacy, that's betrayal. And the damage, it's far bigger than one failed deal. Every nation watching now knows Britain's word can't be trusted. Agreements can be changed. Respect is optional. India once saw Britain as a dependable partner. Now, they see a country that plays games with its allies. And that shift, that loss of trust, will echo for decades. Modi didn't need threats or grandstanding to win this fight. He just refused to accept disrespect, and the entire world noticed. Meanwhile, Starmer's isolation is absolute. European leaders are keeping their distance. Washington is silent. Commonwealth nations have frozen communication. Every diplomatic door that once opened for Britain has now slammed shut. The man who promised to restore Britain's global reputation has done the exact opposite, creating a humiliation so complete. It's already being studied as a case study in foreign policy failure. And here's the part that should terrify Downing Street. If those leaked donor documents are proven authentic, if investigators confirm that Starmer's government sabotaged the deal under outside pressure, this doesn't just end his career, it could trigger criminal investigations into foreign influence at the highest levels of the British government. At this point, we're not just watching a scandal. We might be watching the collapse of an entire administration. Whistleblowers are stepping forward. More documents are leaking. The story keeps expanding. And Starmer now faces a brutal choice. Come clean, admit what happened, and face the fallout. Or keep lying, and let the truth destroy him piece by piece. Because in 2024, nothing stays hidden. Not when insiders are ready to talk. India, meanwhile, has already moved on. They're signing new deals, forming new alliances, and proving they never needed Britain's approval to succeed. Britain, on the other hand, is left counting the cost, lost jobs, broken trust, and a reputation in ruins. All because one government thought it could manipulate a nation of 1.4 billion people and walk away clean. The lesson here isn't just for Starmer. It's for every leader watching. Arrogance has consequences, lies have a price, and once you lose respect, you never get it back. History will remember this moment as the weak Britain finally learned what it refused to accept. The empire is over. You can't treat partners like subordinates anymore. The world has changed even if Westminster hasn't. And right now, one truth stands above all. India called Britain's bluff, and Britain had nothing. So here's my question to you. Do you think Starmer knew about the donor pressure from the start, or was he just catastrophically incompetent? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you believe this story matters, if you think people deserve to know what really happened, share this video, because while mainstream media might move on, this story is far from over. The leaks are still coming. The truth is still unfolding, and when it all comes out, it's going to shake Britain to its core. Stay informed, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.